In this video, I'm going to show you how to deploy M365 apps to client computers from the Office CDN network, that is Content Delivery Network, using Office Deployment Tool. So before we go to the demo, let's go through the best practices. Before you deploy M365 application, it is good to run the readiness toolkit that I show you in the previous video. Then once you're done with the readiness tool and you assess your environment, then before you deploy, you need to decide the update channel. So in the first video, we saw there are three different channels available: current, monthly, and semi-annual update channel. So choose one based upon your organization policies, and it is highly recommended to create two deployment group like critical and non-critical users, and you can delay the update until the testing results satisfy with the non-critical users. Then you can deploy this Office 365 updates to critical users. The first step is to create a share folder. So I'm going to create a share folder in server, then assign permissions to this folder. So my share folder is share. Inside share, I have M365 folder. Then I'm going to give permissions to everyone. You can, instead of everyone, you can give permission to the group of users you have. If you look at the properties, you can see that the permission has assigned successfully. Now the next step is to download Office customization tool. So let's do that. Open the browser, then you can find the ODT link in the description. So simply download Office deployment tool, then run this in the server. So once you run this Office deployment tool, this extract and copy the files which is extracted, or extract it directly to the shared folder that we created now. So I'm going to run the downloaded file from the shared folder, accept the license agreement, and now you have to point the shared folder that you have created. That is, in my case, that is share/M365. Now this creates some files in the folder, as you can see. Now the next step is to create a configuration file. So for that, open the browser and go to config.office.com. Now you can see you have an option to create a new configuration. If you want, you can customize your configuration by importing the existing configuration. Let us create the first configuration. You can see the first question is which architecture you have, like 32-bit or 64-bit, and select the Office suite product, that is apps for enterprise in my case. Then I don't have Visio product, so I just leave it untouched. Then if you have any additional product, you can select it from here. Then the important part is the update channel. We know that there are different channels available. I selected semi-annual enterprise channel, which means twice a year. Then I'm going to select the latest version. If you want any specific version, you can select it from here. Then you can see that instead of installing all the application, you can customize it here. I'm gonna remove most of the apps and just select Word, so that for this demo I can click complete it. And in the language, you can see the first option is match operating system. So that will install based upon the operating system language. Next, from where you want to install it, from Office network or from local source or from the configuration manager. For this, we're going to install from the cloud, so that is Office CDN. Then when you install this Office Microsoft 365 app, you can uninstall the existing version, so you have a choice here. Or if you want to keep it, just turn it off. Then we have a license, that is product activation, which is user based in my case. Then you can enter your organization name and other details here. Then I keep the application preference untouched. So once you complete with the selections, simply click on the finish button. Then you can see on the top you have import export. So let us export this configuration. And this is about the file format. Just keep the current settings. Then you can click OK. Now accept the license agreement. Then enter a name for the configuration file. So I just customize the file name. then click on the export button. Now I save my configuration file, and the next step is to move the configuration file which we just downloaded into the share folder which we created. Now we are ready for deployment. And now it is time to log into the client computer and run the deployment. So once you log in, open command prompt and run as administrator. Then we're going to run this command, that is setup.exe/configure, then point your configuration file. That will install the Office application based upon our choice. So our choice is only to install Word application. So this will install the Word in this computer, and this is downloading from the Office CDN, that is Office Cloud Network. Once it complete the download, you can simply sign in and complete the product activation, because this is a user based activation. So you can sign in with the user account who have this license. So simply sign in and activate the MS Office application. So let us summarize what we have learned in this video. We know now how to install or how to deploy Microsoft 365 application with Office customization tool and Office deployment tool, where the setup is downloading from the cloud network. In the next video, we're going to see the Microsoft 365 app deployment using local source instead of cloud source. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate to you how to deploy Microsoft 365 apps from a local source. In the last video, we saw how to do it from the cloud. A local source deployment helps you to download the source files one time to a network shared folder where all your users have access. So the best practices are: make sure you have completed assessment and planning. That include running the readiness toolkit for M365 deployment, where you can find out whether the Office files are compatible with M365 apps. Then it is highly recommended to create 2 deployment groups, so that the first one can test the new features with a small group and then apply it to organization wide. Deploy M365 apps from the cloud or the local source. The steps are almost similar. You create a shared folder as we did in the previous video. Then you download Office deployment tool. Then you extract the Office deployment tool to the shared folder. Then you create a configuration file. So when you create a configuration file, you can mention that the source is local instead of cloud. So as the first 2 steps that comes in this deployment are similar to the previous video, I'm going to skip those part, like creating a shared folder and downloading ODT and extracting it to the shared folder. We're going to start straight away from the configuration tool in this video. Log into config.office.com. Then you can see there is an option to create a new configuration as we did in the previous video. Click on the create configuration. Then select the architecture and select M365 apps for enterprise. I have explained already about the options that comes in this Office customization tool. So select as per your organization requirement. Then once you reach to the installation option, you can see the second option, local source, and you have to mention the source path. So there is an option, it can fall back to the Office content delivery network in case if the selected language option is not available. For example, if you configure match to the operating system language and the operating system language is missing from what you have downloaded to the source path, then this will work out. So once you complete this configuration, then click on the finish button. Then the configuration is ready with Office customization tool. You can review the configuration, then click on the export button, keep the default file format, then accept the licensed agreement. Then you can rename the file name as you have multiple files now. Then click on the export button. That will download the .sml file, which is the configuration file. Now we have the configuration file and the extracted files of Office deployment tool. Now we have to run the download command to download this to the network shared source. So you can see that I'm running this in a server where the shared folder located. So after I run this command, you can see a new folder created, Office. And when you open this Office folder, you can see that the files related to Office application is downloading. So once it completed, you get all the necessary Office setup files into your network shared folder. When you go to the properties, you can see that the size has increased to 2 GB. So now let us move to the client computer. Log into any user computer, then open the command prompt, then open command prompt with administrator privilege. Then you have to run the command for installing Office application in this device. So the setup file /configure, then the configuration file location. So the only difference between the installation command and the download command is here you mention /configure in the middle of the command, and when you download the source file into the server, you configure it as download. And you can see that the installation is very fast as it is downloading from the local source instead of cloud. So this help you to reduce the requirement of bandwidth. Now installing Office has completed. You can open the Office application and sign in with the user credentials so that the Office get activated. So let us summarize what we have learned in this video. In this video, we saw how to deploy M365 apps from the local source. So we downloaded the setup file into a network shared folder. Then we configure or install it to the user PC. In this video, we are going to review what we have learned in this section. Microsoft 365 package includes Microsoft 365 apps. That is your favorite application like MS Excel, Office, Word, and Outlook. Microsoft 365 apps need to be updated always to get the latest features so that you can provide best experience to your users, and that adds to the productivity. The simple method is to install it directly from the portal. This is good for small organization, but for large enterprise organization, they might need a different choice to fit the organization policy. In Microsoft 365 app deployment, we found there are different methods to deploy it from the local source or cloud or from a configuration manager. But before you deploy Microsoft 365 apps, use Readiness Toolkit to make sure all files are good to go to the new version from your current version. Then you have also choices to set up download and install from a cloud or local source or configuration manager for the updates, and you can also define the different channels that is available to update your Microsoft 365 apps. So we have completed all our sections and will continue to learn from additional add-on modules and projects.